Hey guys, today's video is going to be on my dive colony. I freaking adore these so much, and it's about time I did a dedicated video to them. You may remember that I got this amazing colony when I was at Antcon. The lovely Rich from Ant Antics very kindly gave us a 2-queen colony. 1 queen for myself and 1 queen for my daughter, the Ant Princess.
Thank you, Ant Antics, they are such a cool species.
This video is going to show footage from what's been going on over the last couple of months. The dives themselves have been an absolutely amazing colony to keep, and I've enjoyed every moment of keeping the ants themselves. The setup, on the other hand, well, that's another story. So as you can see, I had a framework 3D printed for the middle of the setup. Now ideally, I really would like them to completely cover this by weaving their nest all over it. We put lots of twigs and sticks into the framework to help them build upon, and we placed the test tube that they came in on top of the frame. At first, they weaved all in their test tube already, and then they started weaving just outside the opening of the tube, and they had maybe like a conker-sized ball shape on the opening of their test tube. When their original test tube dried out, I placed some fresh test tubes on the ground of the setup. After a while, I think most of the growing colony began living in the tubes on the ground, which surprised me because I assumed they'd prefer to make their own nests over living in the test tubes, which is also why I went for the more natural setup in the first place over an artificial one. Several times since I've kept them, I've regretted going the natural route, and I wished I did what Ant Ramblings and Elijah did and go for the Wakushi Weaver setup, as it would have been so much less hassle. Anyway, as Mr. Antshood would say.
But anyway, I'm digressing.
So, I had some building and living in the frame, in the dryer test tube, and there was some living on the tubes on the ground. Now I heat this setup from below the setup, and I have a heat mat on one side and I have a heat mat on the front of the tank. They began building a small nest right on the front of the glass, which has been amazing because we've been able to see right inside and see them use their babies to weave their nests. They were using bits of leaf litter and some dried out sphagnum moss, and of course using their babies as glue sticks to hold it all together, as their babies make some kind of silk-like substance. I know I should get round to doing some proper research on these stunning ants, but if you've watched my previous videos or chatted to me on Discord or any of the socials or ant groups, you'll know that I keep ants as pets. Their care, I will always make sure I lock down all the information, but all the science in weaving and being able to relay off a ton of facts about them just isn't me yet. I'm definitely an ant keeper and not an ant expert. It's like I have a chihuahua called Federico, and I know how to care for him 100%, but I couldn't tell you a load of facts on chihuahuas or a load of facts about loads of other dog species. Bloody hell, Hood, come back.
But anyway, I'm digressing.
So anyway, nothing was really going to plan with where I wanted them to nest, but the ants were happy, and we was happy that they were happy and doing great regardless. They were building and building, and in return the workers needed to feed the babies more and more to produce the silk to weave. We seriously upped their protein intake. Nearly as soon as they'd finished their last roach, we'd add another, which was usually a decent sized roach a day. Now came the first issue. The once lush, healthy green moss was disappearing super fast. The isopods began taking over the setup. What started off as a few isopods in there as a cleanup crew soon became an army of moss-eating, soil-digging pains. Now, they didn't seem to be bothering the dives at all, but with them destroying the setup and taking over, something had to be done. I was already feeding the ants up on the framework, so the isopods wasn't taking the ants' food at all. Also, a little cheap easy tip to stop isopods stealing the ants' food is to feed the ants on an upside down shot glass or something. The ants can climb up the glass to get to the food, but but the isopods can't climb the glass, so you could do that. Or, do you know them little plastic mini white tables that you get in pizza boxes that stop the lid squashing the pizza? They work great too, and they're free. But with the isopods not being able to get to the ant food, they completely finished off the moss. And if I did put in veggies for the isopods to eat, the dives would guard it from the isopods till it was rotten and I'd have to remove it anyway. Now I know Antimatters uses a jar on an angle with food inside so that the isopods climb into the jar to get the food, but then they can't get back out. But my dives would probably guard the food and not let the isopods get in the first place, so I don't think that would have worked with this colony. So eventually I just had enough and decided to remove the isopods from the setup. It took bloody ages, and obviously I couldn't get all the tiny baby isopods out, so it's going to be an ongoing issue, but it's definitely much more under control. I started off and just spooning the isopods out, as there was so many. I could just scoop like 10 or 20 out at a time. The whole ground was covered. And then after a while I was individually picking them out one by one with tweezers, so you can see why it took so long. I removed hundreds and hundreds. Some I was just chucking into the trapjaw tank next to it because they would obviously just take them down no problem, and the rest are in several tubs that I've now got no idea what to do with them. I've even chucked a bunch into the Tetramorium colony in the Saturn nest, hoping that they'd do some of the clean up in there. But the Tetra were having none of it, and they killed them all off in minutes. They don't mess about at all, them Tetras. Once all the visible isopods were out, I needed to replace the moss. As I know there's likely still loads of baby destroyers in there, isopods, I just collected some moss locally and used that. It's not the best moss, but at least it's brought some colour back to the tank. Once I'm sure I've got the isopod population under control, I'll be visiting Antscape's shop for some prettier mosses. Removing the bulk of the isopods took nearly a good day, and after I sat down and watched the dives explore, then I spotted some of these tiny little ants. I'm not 100% sure what species they are, but they ain't any of mine. So they definitely must have hitchhiked their way in on the moss or the items that I foraged. The dives haven't seemed too fussed by them at all, so hopefully it's just a few stray workers in there. I'm not concerned with them being in there anyway because the dives would take them on no problem. Now, with the dives clearly liking living in the test tubes, I've added a couple more to the framework in hopes of encouraging them to go and live in there. Like, come on dives, follow the programme. A few have moved in, but not quite started weaving yet. But it's nice getting to see them so clearly, because in their other tubes they are completely weaved out, so you can only see in a couple of little gaps. And I won't be taking out the dry test tube just yet, because there's still a few staying in there. These ladies are absolutely beautiful. They're very shiny, and in certain lighting they almost look metal. I think they are truly stunning, and they can be very feisty as well when disturbed. They kind of freeze and aim their butts ready to attack. They hold their ground fiercely and are no pushovers. I'm really happy with this colony, and I spend way too much time watching them. They are always busy doing something, always hungry, and we love to watch the larvae wriggling around. They are surprisingly big and active. And of course, we love seeing them build stuff. I did get them another building material to try it off Wakushi, as I was ordering a bigger nest for my Campanota singularis anyway. So I'm looking forward to seeing if they prefer it to the sphagnum moss and leaf litter and other bits and bobs they use. I would have held off this video and showed if they'd used it or not, but if I keep holding off this video because they keep doing more and more different things, this video will never get out there. Which is why this video has footage spanning over a couple of months, because that's when I first wanted to start this video, but we got there in the end. I'm sure they will get another video soon enough, and I'll update you all. Before I go, here's a quick look at an established dive colony that I saw at a zoo in Bristol. Now look at the size of that nest they have weaved. It's amazing. These are very clever ants. Thanks again to Ant Antics for providing us with this incredible colony. And I'll leave some extra footage at the end. As always, thanks for watching. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.